Hello. So this demonstration is going to be about using bilingual books in your classroom, and it's a great strategy to use even if you don't have any students who are English language learners, because it allows them to make connections between things that they might not have made if the story was just in English. Sometimes the context in other languages is more helpful than just the context in English to figure out what something means or the meaning behind the story. So the demonstration is going to be using Goldilocks and the Three Bears, the English and the Spanish version. And in the demonstration, there's going to be an activity where the students are going to be using context clues to figure out the meaning of words in Spanish based on what they heard in English, or the meaning of the words in English based on what they heard in the Spanish version. And this strategy also brings a great opportunity to invite special guests into your classroom. You can have guest speakers and guest readers who speak a different language, or maybe even people from the community or who else work in the building that speak a different language. They can come in and read a story in a different language. And it's even helpful just for the students to hear how other languages sound to make them more familiar. Sometimes it can seem kind of scary when people you don't know are not speaking the same language as you, especially in an elementary school. That would be very odd for someone to hear a different language that they've never heard before. So if there are students in your classroom who speak Spanish or French or any other kind of English language learner, it would be nice for their language to be included so that other students can get familiar with it and help them feel more accepted into your classroom. This strategy is also helpful in improving the literacy and language development in an English language learner, because finding stories in their native language helps them become more interested in what they're learning, and to see that even though it's not their first language, it's still the same storyline, and that can help build interest, which will eventually lead to them learning to love to read, and their language and literacy skills will strengthen based on what they've been learning. Another great thing that you can use with this strategy is a way to encourage students who are English language learners to interact with their peers. So allowing them to use the Spanish or the English version of a text, they can comprehend that in a way that makes sense to them. If they're new to the language, they can use few word phrases to explain their thoughts to their peers in small group settings, or if they're more developed but aren't really great at interpreting a reading version, like in the example, I use an audiobook, so that way they can interpret audibly what the text is saying rather than having to read it and not be able to make sense of the words in front of them. They also are able to compare it with the Spanish version of, oh, these words match up in each story, so this is how this makes sense and this is what this means. And it's a great way to get them interacting, especially in small groups. And then once they're comfortable in small groups, they'll be more likely to share in whole group settings without feeling like they don't know what they're saying or they don't understand the story. So let's just jump right into the example so you can see kind of what it looks like to hear both texts next to each other and how you would lead that into using it for an activity. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to class today. Today we're going to be starting a new unit about fairies and fairy tales and fables. It's going to be really exciting, and I cannot wait to start doing this with you. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to read a story in English and in Spanish. This is so some of our friends who speak Spanish get to listen to a story in their own language, and we get to experience a new language like they're experiencing ours. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to start today by reading Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I'm going to put it up on your screen here. Now let's make sure we turn on our listening ears so we can hear all the things in the story, because we have to remember it for what we're going to work on later.
Goldilocks and the Three Bears by Robert Southey. Once upon a time, there were three bears who lived in a house in the forest. There was a great big father bear, a middle-sized mother bear, and a tiny baby bear. One morning, their breakfast porridge was too hot to eat, so they decided to go for a walk in the forest. While they were out, a little girl called Goldilocks came through the trees and found their house. She knocked on the door, and as there was no answer, she pushed it open and went inside. In front of her was a table with 3 chairs, one large chair, one middle-sized chair, and one small chair. On the table were 3 bowls of porridge, one large bowl, one middle-sized bowl, and one small bowl, and 3 spoons.
Okay, that was the first 3 pages of this story. So there was one word that is in the title of the story, and it also showed up a lot. What, can anyone tell me what that was? It was bear. They used the word bear so many times in those first 3 pages. So when we listen to the version in Spanish, let's use our thinking brains to see, based on which words they say a lot, what do you think bear means in Spanish? Let's listen.
Ricitos de oro y los 3 osos. Hace muchos años atrás, en las profundidades de un inmenso bosque, se encontraba el hogar de una familia de osos. Papá oso, mamá osa y el pequeño hijo oso. Un día, tras hacer todas las camas, limpiar la casa y preparar la sopa para la cena, los 3 ositos fueron a dar un paseo por el bosque. Mientras estaban fuera de casa, por los alrededores pasaba una niña a la que todos apodaban Ricitos de Oro, por sus hermosos cabellos dorados. La niña había salido a recolectar flores y, percatándose de la casa de los osos, no pudo evitar acercarse. Se puso a merodear la casa, recordando que sus padres le habían enseñado a no invadir espacios ajenos. Pero cuando se acercó a la ventana, vio que no había nadie en la casa y un delicioso aroma a comida le golpeó la nariz y se decidió a entrar. Nada más de poner los pies dentro, Ricitos se dejó llevar por la curiosidad y comenzó a mirar en todos los rincones de la casa. Se acercó a la mesa y vio que habían 3 tazones, uno pequeño, otro mediano y otro más grande todavía. Una vez más recordó las enseñanzas de sus padres, pero viendo la exquisita sopa que estaba en esos tazones, no pudo resistir la tentación y se lanzó a probarla.
Okay, now I know I heard it. Let me see if you heard it. So what we're looking for is the word bear. So if the title of the book is Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, that is this same sentence in Spanish. So if bears comes at the end of the sentence in English, what is the last word of the sentence in Spanish? Osos. So that means that osos means bear in Spanish. So when we move into our groups, there's a couple questions on our guide for us regarding the first 3 pages. I want you to think back to listening to both versions of the story, and your paper is going to ask you to figure out what some of those words mean that they were saying, and see if you can find which word matches in Spanish the English words that you're looking for. So I'm going to put you in groups of 2 to 4, and we're going to go work on our worksheet, and when we come back together, we're going to listen to the rest of the story.